So in the beginning there was two forces, masculine and the feminine. They're just representative of the two extremes of any scale. You have hot, cold, positive, negative, a good, bad. They're all different scales of what our perspective sees as function. So at the point when the masculine energy and the feminine energy interacted, it caused an explosion that created the universe. At this point, all things began to gather together through electromagnetic combinations, repulsion, attraction. Throughout the universe, this is the law of physics. So everything is made up of these proportions that become more complex as the levels go up. Our bodies really are nothing more than things just doing things to keep everything in balance. Like one chemical causes the other chemical to diminish and causes another set of chemicals to come into play, and then electrical charges in your synapses, and it's this electrical signal that we want to look at. Because of this electromagnetic repulsion attraction that it happens between materials of the masculine and feminine, this force in between is actually the beginnings of consciousness. If you look at an atom, you have your proton is your positive charge, your neutron has no charge, and your electron is your negative charge. So inside the atom, the electron's bound to the nucleus by the force that I'm speaking of. It's an electromagnetic force that holds it in play around the nucleus. This force that's happening in between and outside of it as well, as it's connected with other atoms and then other molecules and different variations of, until you get a complex form that carries this signal moving in a vibration that creates rippling. And these ripples that come together create an interference pattern, kind of a joining where it accentuates and diminishes different parts. As it rebounds back to itself, between these two, the signal the ripple that it gets back is different than what it sent out. It allows different predictions to be made as far as placement within itself and within everything around it. From this one, you have waves coming out like this that connect with other atoms over here, and so you have all these rippling waves that are interacting, and so in between there is this new force that's created, and this new force is consciousness, and it's throughout all things. Anywhere there's the emptiness between atoms, between molecules, between any atomic structure, this force that becomes consciousness. So just like when you hold two magnets together and they want to pull together or they want to repel each other, that force is your beginning of consciousness, because it allows the other two to interact in a form of communication with this new wave. And this happens through all things and in different forms, being that the consciousness is in all things. So you have a rock here, you have a bird here. The rock's form is densely populated with atoms, more so even than the bird, so there's even more atomic density to the rock, right? More so than the bird has. I mean, they both have a lot, but the bird has less, it's not as densely packed as the rock. But the rock may contain more of this force, but it is not in a form that can transmit a signal to be considered alive, to transmit it between itself, to communicate within itself through all these atoms, to create structures that that signal can continue. Now within the bird, its body system, over time and evolution and creation, whatever you want to say, its body is set up to carry this electrical signal through itself and as a means of consciousness. Afterwards, the atom and became the molecule. It began growing into different forms that would facilitate this signal until it became such a hugely complex unit, such as we are. But this masculine feminine energy, the proton, the electron, is reiterated within our own structure. As humans, you have the male and the female, and we're just an echo of these two original forces that grew and then learned to grow sensory equipment so we could better understand the world around us and interact with the world around us until we were aware of ourselves. It's the observer that is made from the two. And in the same way, male and female when working together properly, would create a bird, something that is we could call a human being, a whole human being. So within these different proportions of the masculine and feminine, they're created from the Big Bang. Everything that's happened from that point has followed a living algorithm to become what it is now, for life to come into being. So the electromagnetic function allows for things to become more than what they were before. Masculine and feminine interaction is what became the algorithm that is life, that doesn't resolve. Everything is always a push into the next life, or into the next transmutation of energies into new forms. What the algorithm actually is what creates life, and which creates purpose. How does an atom become something more than itself? How would it even know to be able to bond or any of that? It would only be able to do it by the laws that are enclosed around it, that restrained it from doing some things but allowed it to grow in certain ways. But that the amount of energy at the initial moment of the interaction dictates everything that has happened since then. And if you could actually look within a small piece of space and find the pattern within it, you would be able to know all things that have happened and all things that will happen, if you could run that complex of an algorithm out, which the human brain can't do it. But computers could do it, but it would still take it like huge amounts of time, even just to find it. It exists through all things. It is the purpose. It's what makes the plan, God's plan. And so these things that we think are random coincidences, the synchronicities, we don't think much of them, but it's actually the universe trying to communicate with us, nature trying to communicate with us. It's all in the vibe. We're just out of the vibe. We don't want to even try to find how we're supposed to work our way in like every other organism did. Everything else on Earth, up until us, life has worked together, and we refuse to. It's through these synchronicities that God talks to you, that the Creator speaks, the universe. Because this consciousness, or this wave, is the one thing that's in contact all the time. All these other forces are separated, the electron, the proton. What it really all boils down to is you need to be able to hear the Creator through the things that happen around you, through nature, through the synchronicities, through the signs.